There is a big chance that J.D. Vance may be our next president.
I'm not there yet, but after today's speech and him taking all those questions, I'm feeling good.
He walked out on stage in Minneapolis, no teleprompter, no holds barred, saying it the way it should be. And let me tell you something. It is so refreshing to see somebody stay up to date with all the crap that's going around with these schizos down in Minneapolis. He knew about every incident that every one of these people asked him about, even before they finished their sentences.
Things at the outset, just about what I've learned today and what I'm trying to do here. First of all, I want to give a shout out.
Got to catch them all.
To the Annunciation school shooting families, because the last time I was in Minneapolis,
new school shooting,
to meet with some of those families. I understand.
Haven't seen this.
That a couple of the students have made near miraculous recoveries, and just that was a very special moment for me to be invited into that community at a time of grief. And I hope that all of them know. Though I didn't get to see them this particular time, I've been thinking about them and their families quite a bit. Now, to talk about what I am here to do, which is federal law enforcement to enforce our immigration laws, I want to say just a few things. First of all, I wanted to meet with business leaders, with ICE officers, with local law enforcement to try to understand a little bit better what's going on.
Really?
So that we can tone down the temperature a little bit, reduce the chaos, but still allow us, as a federal government, to enforce the American people's immigration laws. That is the purpose of my visit. Now, this is step one or step two of that process. There's going to be a lot of work that follows.
Oh, my God. They have the original Minnesota flag back there. They took down Tim Walz's flag. It's the original Minnesota flag back there. You see that? That's crazy. Oh, I just noticed that. Do you see the star? This star is like a cropped out cut of the original American flag. You see it? So like, you see how it's white? Like they like stamped it and pulled it and put it on there, or like they cut it out. That's cool. Yo, W original Minnesota flag.
Talk about that, but I think I learned a few things that were very important. So number one of the things I learned is that the guys behind me are doing an incredible job, and frankly, a lot of the media is lying about the job that they do every single day.
They sure do.
Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't occasionally stories out there, there aren't occasionally videos out there that suggest that these guys, or at least some of the people who work for them, are not doing everything right. But very often, if you look at the context of what's going on, you understand that these people are under an incredible amount of duress, an incredible amount of chaos, and because of a few very far left agitators, a lot of these guys are unable to do their jobs without being harassed, without being doxxed, and sometimes without being assaulted. That's totally unacceptable.
That's ridiculous.
And that's one of the things that I want to send a message to is, yes, come out and protest me, protest our immigration policy, but do it peacefully. If you assault a law enforcement officer.
What have I been saying this whole damn time, bro? What have I been saying this whole time? I have made video after stream after stream for the past months now. It's been months. That's the sad part. It's not even been a month. It's been months. If you want to protest, do it without hitting officers, man. Do it without impeding traffic. Stand on the side of the road. Protest. Do it all day. Freeze your balls off. I don't care. Stand out there all day and all night. Please, I want you to exercise your amendments, but you have to do it peacefully. You can't burn cars. You can't throw peaceful bricks at police officers. You can't freeze water bottles and throw it at police officers or federal agents. You can't do any of that. It's against the law, and you're going to get the amendments taken away from us if you keep doing that. Like, there has to be protections for police officers, and they're going to enforce it whether we like it or not. You can't do these things to police officers.
The Trump administration and the Department of Justice is going to prosecute you to the fullest.
Not to mention you alienate people if you start turning violent, because people want to protest, but they want to do so peacefully. They're going to leave the mob if you start doing violent things.
The law. Excuse me. And I wanted to show some support for these guys who, frankly, are operating in a very, very tough environment. I heard a lot of stories today about that I think drives home just how chaotic the environment on the ground here has already gotten. For example,
people going ape
did you know that in the last, I think, week or so, maybe even more recently
there's
than that,
already talk that this weekend in Minneapolis it's going to be another schizo fest.
You had a couple of ICE officers who were off duty, who had been doxxed online, who were sitting and having a meal at a restaurant in Minneapolis when a bunch of agitators showed up. locked the door, made them feel like they were in danger for their lives, and then, of course, it was federal law enforcement officers who had to come up, lower the temperature on the situation, and actually get those two off-duty officers to a point of safety.
Mentality, dude.
Now imagine, if you would, your life and your perspective on law enforcement if you can't even go to a restaurant without some agitators locking the door and making you feel like your life is in danger. That is the environment that has been created, I think, by a lot of very, frankly, far-left people.
Well, you got to arrest
by
them,
some
bro.
of the state and local law enforcement officials.
You got to go after
who could do a much better job in cooperating and working. And by the way,
go get them.
I'm not talking about the cops, who these guys told me on the ground, the cops are very sympathetic to what they're dealing with. I'm talking about the state and local...
Boys, the schizos are out today. Trying to invade my chat.
Elected law enforcement officials who could do a lot better job in making their lives a little bit easier. And in the process, they would make the lives of all Minneapolis residents easier, and that's what we want. We want to be able to enforce the immigration laws on the one hand, while on the other hand, we want to make sure that people in Minneapolis are able to go about their day. And I want to say just one last point on this. So I heard from a business leader today who told me a very tough story, and I think so much of what's gone wrong in Minneapolis is people not trying to understand the perspective of somebody else. Try to understand what somebody else is experiencing, whether they're a law enforcement officer or anybody in the community here in Minneapolis.
He really does.
They told me a story.
He makes a lot of sense
About this manufacturing facility
it's so obvious.
An illegal immigrant was being arrested, and as these employees...
That's the issue that I've noticed a lot of. Even whenever it came to, like, the death of Renee Good, whenever they first do the investigation, like, half of it is true and half of it is just a straight-up lie. It's like, oh, someone was shot and killed. This person was shot and killed by an ICE agent. Anarchy, anarchy. And it's like, no, this person tried to run over an ICE agent. And yes, they did shoot and kill her, but out of self-defense, because of a split-second decision. Like,
are going into the manufacturing facility. All of a sudden, an illegal immigrant shows up. They don't know it's an illegal immigrant. And then a bunch of ICE officers descend. Now, these people just want to go to work. They want to go to work safely. And now, all of a sudden, there's a major law enforcement operation happening right outside their place of business. Now, from one perspective, I certainly understand why a business leader or why an employee would say, whoa, what's going on? It's a little scary, no matter your position in life, if a bunch of cop cars show up and they're arresting someone.
Would have never happened if they cooperated.
Now, the additional context is that we know that people online have been encouraging.
Well, like, it's great. And I think JD Vance talks about this a little bit, but it just amazes me how no other state is having this problem. There's not a single other state in the entire 50 states of the United States of America that is giving the federal government this much hell. They would have already been done with Minnesota by now if they had been allowed to do their job and cooperate with law enforcement. It just...
immigrants, that one way they can evade arrest is by showing up at a legitimate place of business, making it impossible for these guys to actually enforce our immigration laws. So while
you notice, like, that's why there were all those videos of, like, the Uber people, they will show up to your house, right? That video where the lady didn't know what to do, so she called somebody. I don't know who she called. But the person that was the Uber driver was illegal, and they ran into her house. And she was more scared of the ICE agents than she was the fact that she had some random-ass person in her house now. And it's like, the fear and contortion that they throw out there on federal agents, these are federal law enforcement agents. Let them do their job, man.
The perspective
it's a safe zone, guys.
And yes... If they go on to, let's say they go to a Sears or a McDonald's, and they're there to get an illegal immigrant, and they have security there, and the owner of the business, because it's a private business, tells them they can't be there, they have to leave without a warrant. It's just like law enforcement, dude. It's no different. There's going to be some bad actors, just like in law enforcement, but you got to make sure that whenever you catch these people, that you actually catch them, and it's not some spent-off schizo. Because how many times are you going to cry wolf before someone's actually a fucking wolf and then no one's going to believe you? Like,
arrest happened at their place of work. I can also understand the perspective of our immigration enforcement officers.
Like there's bad apples in every tree.
who have to do their job and can't allow a heckler's veto over our immigration enforcement.
Thank you.
And so much of what's gone wrong is the failure to do that. And here's the point. We can do a good job of enforcing our immigration laws without the chaos, but it actually requires the cooperation of state and local officials.
Yes.
Thank God.
At blue cities and blue states, red cities and red states. You go to Austin, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee. You go to the state of Texas, obviously a very red state, or the state of Tennessee, a very red state, but you've got blue cities within those states. You do not have this level of chaos.
Yep.
The reason why things have gotten so out of hand is because of failure of cooperation between the state and local authorities and what these guys are trying to do. We have a ton of resources, a ton of ICE agents in this city right now that I would rather us not have. I'd love to send those guys home.
They have to do that. They had that surge after Renee Good because they have to have the initial targeting group. These guys have a target. They go and get the target, and then they have to have ICE agents around those people to arrest the people that are going to try and attack them for trying to get the target. So you effectively have an arrest team protecting an arrest team. It's so sad.
They're not even doing targeted immigration enforcement. They are trying to protect themselves, ICE officers who are doing immigration enforcement, because when a crowd surrounds them and these guys call 911, the local officials, the local cops have been told to stand down.
So they won't show up. They literally won't show up. The local officials will not show up.
People here who aren't even doing immigration enforcement. They're doing
it's what I've been saying the whole time. It's literally what I've been saying the whole fucking time.
So that if a rioter tries to ruin the life or assault an ICE officer, they're actually protected.
What the fuck is going on?
It make more sense for the local cops to get involved in that?
I feel like if the local law enforcement were actually doing what they were supposed to, Renee Good would still be alive. Straight up. If they had pulled her over, like if the city or the state police had pulled her over and arrested her, she would still be alive. Because she was using her vehicle as a blockade for ICE patrols or ICE convoys. You can't do that. Now, if she had been pulled over by an actual state or local police officer and arrested for impeding in a federal investigation, she'd still be alive today. There'd be a whole lot of uproar over it, but she'd still be alive.
Situation. Why not just have the mayor or the local officials tell the police officers, you know what? If an ICE officer is being assaulted by a far-left agitator, you are invited. You should actually help them. That's what would work out in any normal situation, and that's what happens in nearly every jurisdiction.
And see, this is the reason why, I guarantee you, this is the reason why J.D. Vance, when he went to Minneapolis, he didn't talk to the mayor or Tim Walz. He talked to the police chiefs, he talked to the police departments, he talked to those guys, the head officials of that, because he knows that if he were to just sit down and have a roundtable conversation with the higher ups, it's going to be the same thing that happened these past couple months where, he's going to say one thing to them, they're going to blow it out of proportion and take it out of context or do whatever weird stuff they do and continue doing what's going on in Minneapolis right now. So what better way to get around that than to talk to the local officials, like the heads of the individual police departments and stuff like that, and let them know, hey, X, Y, and Z,
Red or blue in the United States of America. The reason it hasn't happened here is because the local authorities have been told, stand down, do not help ICE, promote the violence, promote the agitation, but don't do anything to lower the temperature and lower the chaos. That's a problem. Here's another example of how the lack of cooperation between state and local officials makes it harder for us to do our job and turns up the temperature. Let's say, for example, we have a criminal migrant who is a sex offender. And let's say that we've got to go and arrest that person who, Democrat or Republican, wants a sex offender living in their community. I would assume, I would hope that most people don't. But because they're an illegal alien, we don't know their last address. We may have known their address 3 years ago, but we don't know their address now. What we'd like to do is talk to local officials and say, you know what? According to the Medicaid rules, where was the last person this person, or where was the last address this person was domiciled? Or according to a SNAP application, a food stamps application, maybe that could give us insight to where this person is today. Or maybe they had some local court trouble. We could go to the local courthouse or even the local jail and try to find where this criminal sex offender is today. The local authorities have been told, do not cooperate.
Why would
These guys are trying to go out
retarded.
and enforce the law. They're trying to arrest sex offenders, but they're trying to do it in an environment where local officials have been told, do not help them, do not provide intelligence about where these sex offenders might be. This is disgraceful.
It's crazy.
And there are a lot of things that all of us could do better to lower the temperature, but the number one thing that I learned today is that the best way to facilitate reasonable enforcement of the law.
You're right.
Well, who isn't mad about this? This is ridiculous.
Also, to lower the chaos in Minneapolis would be for state and local officials to cooperate. Now, I will say, on one final positive note, I actually think that there's some hope, some reason to think that there's going to be better cooperation in the weeks and months to come. I think that because I've talked to some of the local officials here, I think there are reasons to believe that these people are going to step up and actually...
I don't know about that. The thing is like you've still got the government officials inside of Minneapolis. Like, I don't know what the hell the name of that mayor is. You got the mayor and Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar, and they're all three of them. They're in such dangerous positions because until they let the public know, hey, not okay, they're just going to keep getting worse every weekend.
Ask the cops to protect our ICE officers when they're being assaulted. Who are going to ask the local courts to cooperate with getting criminal sex offenders out of our community.
Yeah, of course.
That's a good thing.
Smart.
That's the good news, and that's something I'm going to work on when I get back to Washington. But please, if you're a local official, if you're the mayor of this town, if you have any influence over those people, just tell them to cooperate.
Tell them to
we
go
can have
home.
Immigration enforcement operate as smoothly
Just
and
stay on
without
the
the chaos
sidewalk.
that we see in Austin, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee,
Is it bad in
or
Austin?
even rural
I don't
parts
even know.
of the state of Minnesota. All we need is a little cooperation. I guarantee you, we're going to do the best to be professional, to respect people's rights, to not do anything that we don't have to do in order to enforce immigration laws, but it would make our life.
I feel like at this point, yeah, they should have already had military there, but especially if it keeps getting worse, they're gonna have to, and that means that it's gonna be like they're literally gonna come in and take the roles of all the local police. Like, that's what the Insurrection Act does. It allows the government to take the roles of local police and kind of, I guess, put them on temp leave, I guess you could say, and enforce the law. So, like, you don't just push the United States government out of your state. That's not how it works. You just make it harder for everyone else around you to function. That's all. You don't just get to detach from the United States government. That's not how the United States works. Like, you see this flag right here? Have you ever noticed how it's in every single state under the United States? Have you ever noticed that federal law is the law that rules all? Well, maybe you should take that into account.
Make our officers a lot safer, and it would make Minneapolis much less chaotic if we had a little bit of cooperation from the state and local officials. With that, I'll shut up and take some questions. Thank you, guys.
Jesus, bro.
He just laid it out, too. He was like, he just laid that out.
God damn.
ICE agents detaining a 5-year-old after preschool on Tuesday. We've also seen multiple American citizens detained by ICE.
He just went in there and let him know.
6 weeks. Are you proud?
He just want to let him know.
Is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you know, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning.
You know what? It tends to happen whenever you don't tell ICE agents where the parents are. It's probably going to happen. Like, I'm sure he's going to talk about the individual where the news talked about how ICE detained some 5-year-old, and it was like, yeah, because they had the dad, but the dad took off and left the kid.
For an economic message.
Oh, there's a kid involved.
I see the story.
Oh, no, I guess we shouldn't have laws.
I'm a 5-year-old, actually. A 5-year-old little boy.
Yeah, I guess, right? Just because they have kids, that makes them exempt from every law known to man, right?
myself, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research.
Here we go.
And
There
what
we
I
go.
find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien.
And he ran
away.
away.
When they went to arrest his illegal alien father,
He left
the
his kid
father
there.
ran.
Yep.
So
I
the
knew it.
story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument
What
is
do you mean by that, Paul 01 ZFC? What does that even mean? Facius? What is a facius? Is that even a word? I'd assume you're trying to spell fascist. I'm just gonna remove you. Fucking schizos, man. We got a lot of them in chat today, I guess. I don't know. Don't know what it is, bro. They all coming out of the woolwork now.
you can't arrest people.
All their shit's getting shut down and they panicking. They can't use those bots from the foreign countries anymore to incite violence. Oh no.
Who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject
gotta
of
DM
law
him.
enforcement.
I've been
That
saying
doesn't make
this.
any
I've been
sense. No
saying
one
this
thinks
shit.
that makes any sense. Now, you know, there are so many of these cases like that where
Oh
if you
my
just
God.
understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second.
Right,
we
bro,
don't want
I love
ICE
you. Thank you.
arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens.
He is
So then I
on
look
one.
into it and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer.
What?
You can't have that happen. And of
That's
course
right.
they have to defend themselves. And of course they have the right to detain somebody who assaults a law enforcement
Yeah,
officer.
tries to hit him.
Now,
Duh.
this is my point. Do we want these things to happen? Do we want
Am I the
these
shadow president?
arrests to be so chaotic?
No, we already have the
don't.
eyeshadow
These
vice
guys
president.
want it least of
No,
all.
you
But if
don't.
we had a little cooperation from local and federal, or excuse me, from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go way down.
Of
in
course
this
it would.
community.
Of course it would.
Go ahead.
Jesus. No teleprompter? Bro.
Sir, the administration seemed to say.
Yeah, well, you can go next.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you pointed it
No,
out.
that's fine. I'll take both.
After the Renee Good shooting, sir, the administration seemed to. After the Renee Good shooting, the administration seemed to suggest that ICE officers enjoyed near complete immunity. But today, you told the Washington Examiner that when appropriate, the administration.
They did an investigation on the shooting and found the guy wasn't at fault. No one said they have near immunity. They just do investigations, and then if nothing can be done to them, they don't get arrested. It's no different than any other law enforcement officer.
Might take disciplinary actions against ICE agents. So is that a change in opinion? And if so, why the change in tone?
No, I didn't say, and I don't think any other official within the Trump administration said.
Can we
that
just
all
put
of
that
the
Shadow
guy
Realm,
in jail?
dumbass?
wrongdoing would enjoy immunity. That's
Why don't we
absurd.
just
What I
put
did
him in
say
jail?
Is that when federal law enforcement officers violate the law, that is typically something
Yeah.
that federal officials
put him
would
in
look
jail.
into. We don't want these guys to have.
I'm so
kangaroo
sick of these
courts.
people.
We want them to actually
Fucking
have
lobotomized
real
her in
due
the chat
process,
today,
real
man.
investigation. Because again, sometimes they're accused of wrongdoing, and it turns out when you learn the context, they didn't actually do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But of course, we're going to investigate these things. Of course, we're investigating the Renee Good shooting, but we're investigating them in a way that respects people's rights and then ensures that if somebody did something wrong, yes, they're going to face disciplinary
Yeah, no
action,
doubt.
but we're not going to judge them in the court of public opinion.
Exactly.
I've spoken at length on this particular case. I think
Yes.
that Renee Good's death is a tragedy. I also think that she rammed an ICE officer with her car. So the tragedy here is multi-layered. The tragedy is there was a misunderstanding. The tragedy is that Renee Good lost her life. The tragedy is that you have ICE officers who are going into communities where they're worried.
That's what I've been saying too. I think JD Vance would make a fantastic president because he's not some old dude that doesn't keep up with everything. You realize that every time he gets answered a question here, he already knows what incident they're talking about. Like, he retweeted Asmongold. Like, he stays on social media. He understands the game. He understands it better than probably a lot of people do. I think JD Vance would make a fucking fantastic president at this point. Couchfucker got it, bro.
that if they call 911, no
Hey,
one's
you
gonna
see the
come to help
bloodbath
them.
going on right now, bro? It's just a bunch of fucking lobotomites. Every one of those deleted things is a
That
lobotomite.
is what produces this terrible situation, and it's something state and local officials here in Minnesota could solve.
Oh my.
Yes, sir.
Oh my fucking God.
Especially regarding this cooperation and family values. It's a shame the kids have to get caught up
Wow.
in this. And, you know, towards that, sir.
It's kind of sad that I'm having to fucking block all these fucking retards today. Usually I like to embarrass them first, but my birthday is on Sunday, and I just ain't in it today, bro. I just ain't in it today. I'm fucking tired.
You know, it is a shame that kids have to get caught up in this.
I'm not trying to do any heavy lifting today.
I'm very excited to speak there. I want to talk about local law enforcement, but, you know, I mean, look, I am,
He's cooking.
as a child, I saw people in my
I'm
family get
loving
arrested.
this.
It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. It's chaotic. It's traumatic for the kids. I can recognize
You're really not
that,
taking her
and I can
shit?
recognize
Yeah.
that we got to support these kids. Well, on the other hand, saying that just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you get complete immunity from law enforcement. And I think
Oh,
we have to hold both
there
of
it
those
is.
thoughts in our head at the
I'm-
same time. We've got to be
when they arrest
sympathetic to
people,
the
yeah.
kids who are caught up in some of
Well,
these
thanks, man. I'm turning fucking 31. Fucking sucks.
enforcement actions. We've also got to say we have to enforce the law without bias, with fairness, but we've
Yeah.
got to enforce the law.
Amen to that.
President!
Oh, whoever that is going to be so annoying.
And their mayor said they haven't heard about us being in the city. And how did
Yeah. That's a Karen.
You said there was an altercation in St. Cloud. Yeah.
After the incident, the mayor said that ICE did not communicate with them if they were in the city for immediate operation. The police chief.
ICE didn't do something? Well, I don't know. Like, what is this? Like, you're talking to the manager?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
can
it's,
I
actually,
talk
it's one
to
of
the
the takeaways.
manager?
I've talked with these guys before we came on the stage, but during our roundtable and some of the other
Well,
conversations
I
we've
heard
had,
on this other
communication,
city-
we absolutely want to ensure there's good communication
Mm-hmm.
between federal officials and state and local officials, and I'm sure that we can do better on that. We absolutely want to make sure
Jesus.
that we are communicating, but that also
Amen to
requires
that.
a two-way street, and that's the point that I make about state and local officials. These guys will absolutely communicate with state and local officials. They'll tell people if they're
Well, they're doing it already in 49 other fucking states. Why do you think that Minneapolis is the only one that's having trouble? Seriously, why do you think they're the only fucking one having trouble?
do an enforcement operation in a particular municipality, but part of that...
Every other state knows better than to do this. Like, it's the federal government. You don't just get to decide what federal laws you're not going to enforce in your state. Like, what?
They also want to ensure that if they're communicating about their whereabouts, that's not being used as a weapon
Bro,
against
these are
them.
normal
Sometimes
questions?
they tell people where they're going,
Yeah.
and then they find out that their agents' faces are on the, on Reddit or on some social media thread saying, here's this guy, we know he's going to be at this place at this exact time. So that communication has got to be a two-way street. These guys are going to communicate with business leaders,
Damn.
with
Oh
local
my
officials,
God.
with state officials, but we also need the local
He knows
officials
it.
and state officials to do a good job
The Eye of
protecting
Sauron.
people when they're in their communities. We're not asking.
I
by the
feel
way,
like Trump is the Eye of Sauron, and then like J.D. Vance is the beam. It's the light. The Eye of Sauron is from the Lord of the Rings, if you're not
we
aware.
don't want any police officer in this community, in this state, to help us do immigration enforcement. We've got that. But if a protester shows up and that protester turns violent against our immigration officers, we really
I feel like this is the last warning the federal government's going to give Minnesota. I feel like this is the last ditch effort before they end up having to use the Insurrection Act if it keeps getting bad. I think that's what this is. I genuinely do.
need the
gotta round 'em up.
cooperation of our local
Put 'em in a
partners.
camp.
We haven't gotten it yet,
Put 'em
but I
in a
think if we
box.
do, we really can lower the temperature. Yeah.
Vacation. Oh my God. Oh my.
Yeah, so
Shut up,
I saw
Karen.
that story, and the story is like so much that I read in the mainstream media. It's missing
Wait.
a whole lot of context.
So
and when
he
you
knows
appreciate the
every
context,
single one of
It
them.
makes sense.
That's what's so impressive about this. He answers everyone's questions in this room, and he has an answer for every one of them. It's not some like dismissive answer. It's a straight up answer.
No one is saying I mean, look, there are exceptions. For example, a crazy exception.
Yeah, hot pursuit.
If somebody is fired at from inside a house,
you have to go
they
inside the
don't
house.
need a warrant to go inside.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Hot
person's
pursuit.
house. There are
Yeah.
very narrow exceptions to the warrant requirement
He's
where law
prepared,
enforcement
yeah.
officers don't need a warrant if, for example,
I have not seen this level of just straight up competence from an elected official in so long. It's so refreshing. I don't think I actually know if I've ever seen this level of competence come from an elected official. The fact that this guy knows everything that's going on, that he's keeping such a wide eye on everything that's happening, it's beautiful. We need every elected official in our government to be I wouldn't say they have to be like JD Vance, but to understand and keep an eye on everything that's going on, and we would have a completely different country. We would.
they're an imminent threat of
Man,
their lives.
that's
but
right.
What we've said and what ICE has proposed, what the Department of Homeland
This is
Security really has
insane.
proposed in the Department of Justice, is that we can get administrative warrants to enforce administrative immigration law.
Yeah, of course.
Now, it's possible, I guess, that the courts will say no, and of course, if the courts say no, we
Right.
would follow that law. But nobody is talking about doing immigration enforcement without a warrant. We're talking about different types of warrants that exist in our system. Typically, what happens, not always, but typically in the immigration system, those are handled by administrative law judges. So we're talking about getting warrants
Man.
from those administrative law judges. And then, of course, with other cases, you get judges or you get warrants from a judge. That's very consistent with the practice of American law.
It sounds to me like they're trying to round up the people working with the area's law enforcement and just trying to nab them whenever they're doing stuff, so that way they don't need the warrants for right now. But it does sound like to me they're already working on getting warrants for these people anyway. That it sounds like it's just a matter of time. I mean, whenever you have 800 people, it takes a while to get warrants. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes a while.
I'm sure the courts will weigh in on that, but we're never going to enter somebody's
And what's
house.
crazy is that if they had worked with local law enforcement, if local law enforcement was working with them and they had a prior address, they could get warrants. If the local law enforcement would tell them, hey, the last known address of X, Y, and Z was here, then they could get a warrant. It's hard to get a warrant for a location if the local law enforcement isn't helping them and they don't know where the fuck these guys are. All they can do is monitor and surveillance until they figure out where the fuck he is. That's the issue. And you wonder why they're just detaining random people. That's why they're trying to find these guys, because local law enforcement isn't helping them. How do you think people get warrants? You have to have a prior address. Duh. Well, you can't get a prior address if the fucking local law enforcement isn't telling them where these guys are. It's not rocket science, it's basic law.
Of a warrant, unless, of course, somebody's firing on an officer
Yeah,
or
of
they
course.
have to do something in order to protect themselves. Go ahead.
Man. God damn.
Well, our understanding is that
God
you can
damn.
enforce the immigration laws of the country under an administrative order if you have an administrative
Yeah.
warrant. That's what we think. That's our understanding of the law.
This
That's
is
our
nuts.
best faith attempt to understand the law.
I'm
Again,
loving
this
this.
is something courts will weigh in on. I won't speak to that. But yes, most immigration law in our country is not done through the criminal system with a judge. It's done through the administrative law system.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue that practice just as they did in the Biden administration or any other administration.
They act like this is such a new thing. You realize that this has been going on for like 20, 30, 40 years now? Like, you realize that this isn't the only presidency ever that has done this. Jesus Christ, Bush did it, Obama did it. I mean, obviously Trump did it. Like, come on. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Jesus Christ, people. There's already a system in place for getting illegal immigration out of the country.
Was there anything that you heard or saw today
God damn.
that would cause you to talk to the president to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Ooh, Insurrection Act.
Did you meet or talk to the idea?
Okay, this is a good question.
I did not talk to him today. I talked to some of his colleagues. Your question on the Insurrection Act is interesting. I've tried to understand this as well as I possibly could. And my understanding is what the Insurrection Act, what invoking the Insurrection Act would allow the federal government to
Use
do
the military, right?
is that it would allow the federal government to use the military
Yeah.
for local law enforcement
Yep.
operations. Right
Yeah.
now, we don't think that we need that. Now, the president could change his mind. Of course, things could get worse. But right now, we think
And I
that federal law
guarantee you the
enforcement
reason why they feel that way is because the local law enforcement wants to work with ICE. But it's like JD Vance said earlier in this press conference, somebody higher up is telling these guys not to do that. And what better way to get around that than to just go there and straighten out the line straight up?
Officers can do the job.
Because, like, if you've got one guy telling everybody from the top down, don't do X, Y, and Z, but then you've got the guy that's above that guy coming in a room full of eyes and ears of like 7 or 8 people as opposed to that one guy, then that's where you're going to see your change. Because that one, like, those multiple people are all going to get together and be like, no. Because he said this, we're going to do this, you know?
Federal law enforcement. Now, what I do worry about, again, is if the chaos gets
getting
worse,
yeah.
if more and more ICE agents start getting assaulted, if other law enforcement officers start getting assaulted, that would be a real problem. But again, we have so much federal law enforcement resources here right now. We have so many people here that we do not want to have here. I do not want so many ICE officers in Minneapolis right now.
Well, what you could do is you could send in the U.S. military and pull half the ICE officers out. Because they won't really need the police at that point. They just use the military to play as acting police, send all of them home, tell them that their services are no longer needed at the moment, and then get the operations done, and then completely leave Minnesota. Done.
Lord, it's really, really freaking cold outside. But they're here not even to enforce immigration laws, but to protect the people from the rioters. That's an absurd state of affairs, and we wouldn't need it if we had a little bit more cooperation from the Minneapolis Police Department. Again, the Minneapolis Police Department, my understanding is that the actual beat cops on the ground, they would love to help out, but they're being told by somebody.
It's so sad to see so many people hate on the Democrats, bro. Like, I'm neither. Like, if I was ever gonna vote, I'm always and probably always will be poor as fucking shit. So, like, the Democratic Party was always for the people, and like the past 8 or 9 years, dude, it's just gone to shit. It's so sad to see that. And I kind of agree with, like, dissolving the Democratic Party. I do. A little piece of me thinks that if they keep getting all these schizos as Democratic, like, officials, we just got to dissolve the party and come up with a new one or something, because, like, it ain't working, man.
I don't know if it's
ain't working.
Afraid. They're being told by somebody not to cooperate at all. What kind of a person tells their local police?
I'm not an idiot, but you're definitely banned.
Assaulted by a rioter. It's crazy, and it's got to stop.
Exactly.
Earlier this week, local
It's
law
completely
Yes, you're an idiot.
It's not even a question.
Why are there so many U.S. citizens being caught up in this operation?
Why are there so many U.S. citizens?
Well, I think
'Cause
your
they're catching
question
themselves
assumes
up,
something
Oh,
that's not
vicious today, man. I don't give a fuck. I am just vicious today.
necessarily in evidence, which is that when there are American citizens who have been caught up in some of these enforcement operations, very often it is people who have assaulted a law enforcement officer. They're not being arrested because they violated the immigration laws.
No.
They're being arrested because they punched a federal law enforcement officer. That is
Right.
a totally
That'll
reasonable
do it.
thing. Now, to the accusation of racial profiling, you know, look, it's something that we take very seriously. We will take accusations of racial profiling back to Washington. We'll certainly look into them as they come up. But this is not a group that's going around and looking for people who violated the law based on skin color.
Biblically
They're
accurate,
looking for
JD
people
Vance.
who violated the actual law, the law of our immigration system in this country. And so long as we had more cooperation, I think they could do these things in a much more targeted way. They would actually know where some of the bad guys are. I mean, again, you hear things that are hard to believe.
Bro, JD Vance cooked with this so hardcore. He cooked with this so hard. The fact that he just what an interesting shot. Man, Couchfucker showing his true colors today. I wonder if that's the face he made. No, I'm kidding. I'm done. I'm kidding.
But I've confirmed that they're true.
He just showed up, huh?
Sex offenders who we're trying to get off the streets, who the local officials won't tell us their last known address. So then the local officials say, oh my God, these guys are doing widespread targeted enforcement operations, when in reality,
they're trying
we
to
would
find a
love to
sex
just
offender.
go to one house. The local officials won't tell us which one house to go to.
This messaging is insane.
Isn't it a beautiful thing? Dude, I don't know. I just woke up this morning and I was like, dude, I feel like dealing with no shit. Usually I'll have like little mini debates with some people before I end up banning them. It depends on how fucking retarded they are. But today I just woke up and I was like, man, I ain't doing it today. Today's Friday. I'm about to get the next 2 days off. My birthday's on Sunday. Not today, son. I ain't got time for this shit.
Police chiefs have said their own off-duty officers, so police officers, are being targeted because they are a person of color and asked to show their papers. Is that a concern?
Police officers are being targeted and told to show their papers?
Their own officers are being targeted, and they described it as, quote, civil rights violations.
What the fuck
So
are
I
you
saw
talking
one
about?
story about this and one local police officer who said this. And look, certainly is it a concern? Absolutely. The first thing we have to figure out is whether it happened or not.
Yeah, you have to do this thing called an investigation. It's where you use the local and or federal police officers to bring in detectives and people that will do this imaginary thing that nobody's heard of, especially not Minnesota, called an investigation. And once they're done with the investigation, they'll have this thing called a conclusion. And once the conclusion comes out, it'll either say that this motherfucker lied, or that social media is retarded, or that it actually happened and then someone gets arrested. Jesus, it's not rocket science.
There is a good
I love how these people are questioning shit that's been going on for hundreds of years. Like, come on.
explanation or a bad explanation. And of course, if somebody violated the law,
thanks, man, for the happy early B-Day.
Somebody violated the rights of one of our fellow citizens. That is something we will take very seriously. What I also
stick around. We're here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon. I take weekends off so my brain cells have time to recoup from the mental illness that is this country. We have a Discord. You can join the Discord and drop videos in there for me to react to. I do all the new political stuff. I do all the trending drama. I do it all, man. We have some like Midwest safety police videos. I'm an ex-firefighter. I'm a cold-blooded patriot. I love this country and I want to see it get better.
Is that many of the most viral stories of the past couple of weeks
bullshit.
have turned out to be at best partially
We got Nigel in the other chat. We stream to Kick, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Well, we don't stream to TikTok. I upload to TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Skies for Losers, and yeah. Also, there's two versions of YouTube live stream. There's the shorts version, which you guys are on, and then there's the big version, the 1080. There's like the 1920 by 1080 version on YouTube. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you can actually click on the big box. Over there, we got God and a Fish, legendary fucking viewer. He's here all the time, 24/7, constantly.
Reality, based on the truth, based on context. We're not going to prejudge people just because of viral social media story that turned out to be half false.
Wow.
About the roundtable you just had, I presume that happened. Did you invite anybody with an opposing point of view to get an idea of why people are upset here? And just as a quick follow-up,
An opposing point of view? For what?
In an attempt to turn down the tent.
So I haven't talked to Governor Walz on this particular trip. A number of members of our
You mean the
administration,
bald
I believe our chief of
retard?
staff.
Oh, fuck. No, I didn't mean to do that.
Then the local officials
Why?
say, "Oh my God, more cooperation." I think, officer, that is a totally
That'll
reasonable
do it.
thing. Now, to the accusation
That'll
of
do
racial
it.
sex offenders
Ooh.
who work more cooperation, I think they could do these things in a much more targeted.
Biblically
They're
accurate,
looking for
JD
people
Vance.
who violated the law. But this is not aggressional profiling. Back to Washington, we'll certainly look into them as they come up. But this is not a group that's going around and looking for people who violated the law based on skin color.
Biblically
They're
accurate,
looking for
JD
people
Vance.
who violated
Isn't this
the
crazy?
actual law, the law of our immigration system in this
God.
country. And so long as we had more cooperation, I think they could do these things in a much more targeted way. They would actually know where some of the bad guys are.
They need to investigate every state. They need to investigate LA, where all the funding is going for all the fire homes that got fucked up. They need to investigate. I guarantee you, every single state has its own version of what Minneapolis has when it comes to that fraud. I promise you it does. And they need to go to each one of these states, see what's going to happen now that Nick Shirley made Minnesota get the eye of Sauron. What needs to happen now is Nick Shirley either needs to hire other journalists to do the same thing in other states, or what's going to end up, what I think is really going to happen is other journalists, independent journalists that want to become famous, they're going to go to these other states and they're going to start looking into where the fraud is. I don't think this is a red and blue. I think this is a very corrupt government that needs to be shut the fuck down, or at least the bad apples need to get out of the government. That's what I think is going on. Who knows how deep this corruption goes?
You hear things that are hard to believe.
I wish it was as simple as saying, well, if we just got rid of one party, then everything goes away. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that you have to keep these individuals accountable for their actions. They're doing it because they're not being held accountable. That's the problem.
Confirm that they're true. Sex offenders
Oh,
who we're trying to get off the
right.
streets, who the local
Far too
officials won't tell us their last known address. So then the local officials say, oh my God, these guys are doing widespread targeted enforcement operations, when in reality,
they're trying
we
to
would
find a
love to
sex
just
offender.
go to one house. The local officials won't tell us which one house to go to.
This messaging is insane.
To that question, the local police chiefs have said their own off-duty officers, so police officers.
Yo, W chatter, that's so funny. You know, I'm not a big fan of Trump, but you know, like everything he's done in his first year has been impressive. I'm not gonna lie. It's been insanely impressive. Like, I've never really been a big, heavy fan of Trump, mostly because he's running as Republican, and I'm like, even the Democrats are I would never vote for a Democrat now. I never have voted, but I definitely wouldn't vote for him now. I would probably end up voting for, if Trump was running for another term, I'm starting to lean into that I would probably go and vote for that. But I think if JD Vance were to run and he keeps a solid face like what he's doing in this press conference, I might actually go out and vote for JD Vance as the next president. I might.
Because they are a person of color and asked to show their papers. Is that a concern?
Police officers are being
Okay,
targeted.
we talked about that.
The right
I accidentally...
viral social media story that turned out to be half false. Let's try seriously. What I also violated the rights of one of our fellow citizens. Viral stories. So we want to try people based on reality, viral social media story, truth based on context. We're not going to prejudge people just because of viral social media story that turned out to be half false.
Thank you, JD Vance.
Both the roundtable you just had, I presume that happened.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you let up on Minnesota, that's a mistake. They need to, if the protests keep getting bad, they need to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pop it on purpose. They need to, if this next weekend is real bad with the protests and they keep burning down federal cars, they should just flood the entire state with like as many army people that will fit in that motherfucker. They need to roll panzers up the block if that's what it takes. Put some rubberized bullets inside of the cannons, or like use like fire trucks, hose down people. Well, actually, no, you can't do that in Minnesota right now. It's too cold. They can figure something out to make this stop. If you want to protest, great. Just stay off the goddamn road and quit harassing ICE. Stop attacking police officers. It's crazy. It's crazy, bro.
Get an idea of why people are upset here. It's just a quick follow-up.
An opposing point of view. For what?
In an attempt to turn down the temperature.
So I haven't talked to Governor
I feel like if JD Vance ran for the next president and he gets it, I feel like we're going to see 8 years of JD. I do. I don't think the Democrats are going to be able to pull themselves together before the next election. I just don't. They're so gone. They're so rotten. It's not even funny.
on this particular trip.
Their entire morals have shifted to whatever this ideology slop is. Nobody wants it.
A number of members of our
You mean the
administration,
bald
I believe our
retard?
chief of staff spoke to the governor and has been in constant contact.
That's right,
with
man.
his
You got to get that no balls Tim Walz in there.
staff.
Got to make that insult.
Last week, we've been in my office in constant contact with people here on the ground in Minneapolis. There were certainly people at our roundtable with opposing views, and look, I don't even know, whether it's public, but yes, we met with people with opposing views here at the roundtable. I wanted to get a perspective from everybody, but also, of course, offer my opinion that with a little bit more cooperation, we could lower the chaos.
Yeah,
we're going to keep on.
You
doing that. As
can
Governor Walz was
oppose
called-
somebody all you want. Sure, oppose them. But what you can't do is call a riot or anarchy a peaceful protesting. You're blocking off roadways to keep people from coming in and out. You literally have vigilantism on your streets. People are stopping random SUVs and telling them to show them the interior of their vehicles. You have these people breaking into federal cars, stealing classified documents out of the cars, destroying the cars themselves, burning shit to the ground. Bro, that's not a protest, that's anarchy. That's chaos. Vance is great, and I'm just gonna ban you because you're retarded. I just can't, dude. I just can't deal with these fucking morons today, man. Like, part of me thinks that half the people that do that kind of stuff, they go into someone's chat like that and start calling, like, our elected officials' names and stuff. I feel like that's just botted fucking accounts or something.
We'll absolutely
Usually
continue.
I'll, like, click on them and try to look at their channel to see if it's, like, what I saw whenever Kurt got killed. But I just don't have the energy for it, man.
I will
just
say
go away.
that my sense of this situation, having
You're
talked to
crazy. And no amount of conversing with somebody. Look here. Look here. I saved this video specifically for this reason. Oh, shit. I saved this video specifically for this reason. Let me see. Where's my playlist? Is it? It's this one. Watch later. Hold on, killer. It's this one right here. Hold on. This is what it's like trying to converse with one of these schizos down in Minnesota that are burning shit.
That doesn't believe we went to the moon. Someone I know that doesn't believe we went to the moon. So I said, what kind of evidence would convince you? He said, images of the landing site of the Apollo missions. So I said, okay, here's a website where we sent an orbiter to the moon so that it was close enough, because ground-based telescopes, they don't have the resolution to see the landing sites. But if you get close enough to the moon, you can. It photographed the entire surface of the moon, and there were the landing sites, and you saw the rover tracks, the base for the lunar module. That night, he went home and found it. Then he came back and says, NASA could have faked that. Well, I'm done with you. We have no more to talk about. Because
That's right. That's right. That's what it's like trying to talk to one of these people.
Went home and found it. Then he came back and says, NASA could have faked that. Well, I'm done with you. We have no more to talk about. Because he's not ready to be convinced.
That's right. There you go. That's right. Anytime I have somebody that gets in my comments and they saying stupid shit like that, and it's like, especially if they just immediately lead with a threat, it's like, dude, you're a
NASA could have
dumbass.
faked that. Well, I'm done with you. We have no more to talk about.
That's right.
Because
We have no more to talk about. That's it. Bye. I should just leave that shit up on a different tab.
these guys for a long time is this is primarily a law enforcement issue. This is the attorney general.
That's right.
This is the local mayor. This is all of the organs of local and state law enforcement. That's who we focus on, but we've certainly been in communication with the governor and his office as well.
Vice President.
Yeah. Jesus, bro. Yeah, he's just 1v-Xing them. This is great. I'm loving this.
It's so funny. I don't know if you're trying to insult J. I call JD Vance couch fucker all the time. If I knew JD Vance, I'd be calling him couch fucker to his face. And it would be totally just like to make fun of him. Like to tease him almost. I'd be like, yo, what's up, couch fucker? You doing all right today? I bet he would laugh too. That's the funny part. I guarantee you he would. Like, I wouldn't do that like out the gate. I'd get to know him like as got almost like a friend level, and I'd be like, yo, so couch fucker, was that real?
The plan if nothing changes there here locally. And
I would straight up make fun. I would tease the shit out of him because of that.
Back to thousands of agents. Are there any plans to go to any other cities from here?
Well, right now we're focused on Minneapolis because that's where we have the highest concentration of people who have violated our immigration laws, and that's also, frankly, where we see the most.
Vance is awesome, dude. Like, I would like. I got nothing. As far as I can tell, I have nothing negative to say about Vance. Nothing's come into my radar of vision that has made me dislike Vance. Every speech he's given, every talk he's given has been fucking, it's been spot on. I'll say that. He hasn't missed yet.
assault of our law enforcement officers. I mean, our plan is very simple. If you assault a federal law enforcement officer, we are going to do everything that we can to put you in prison. It's very simple. And most of these protesters, as much,
you may get away with that shit with your local police, but if you assault a federal police officer, they're gonna put your ass in jail. No, not in jail, prison. That's what Vance said.
Most of them have been peaceful, but a lot of them have not been peaceful.
Yes.
And if you go and storm a church, if you go and insult a federal law enforcement officer,
can't do that.
we are going to try very hard. We're going to use every resource of the federal government to put you in prison.
Get your
Respect
ass.
people's rights. Respect people's rights to worship. Respect people's rights to do their job without being assaulted. If you follow that basic principle, the Trump administration is going to do everything that we can to protect your rights. But if you go after somebody, if you assault somebody, if you make a 9-year-old girl cry because you walked into her church and harassed her, we're going to go after you with every single tool that we have.
Vice President,
Ice, baby.
Your administration has said repeatedly this is about safety, about making Americans feel safer. So what do you say to people who are in Minnesota who say it's the overwhelming presence of ICE officers and federal officers and their tactics that are making them feel less safe?
Well,
it's the ICE that's making them unsafe, not the sex offenders?
The biggest one-year drop in murders in the history of the United States of America.
That's a lot.
Significant reductions in violent crime. The reason why we have less violent crime is really two reasons. Number one, because we're enforcing the immigration laws and getting very violent criminals out of our country. And number two, because we're enforcing our criminal laws and putting guys who assault and murder behind bars. This is part of a broad effort to make us safe. And the chaos that people are seeing, and I understand there is frustration of the chaos.
I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think it's because they're fucking brainwashed. Seriously. I genuinely think it's because they've been brainwashed by, like, all this crazy... Like, you have to realize that the only one that I can tell that even talked about the Iran genocide that happened recently was Fox News. And I fucking used to hate Fox News. But, like, ever since they had that restructure and all that, like, stuff that had happened to them, they've been a little different. I don't know, like, I mean, obviously there's still biased news, but they're not as biased as, like, CNN or BBC or MSNBC or like all those other ones. It's kind of sad that it's that way, honestly. And, like, for example, Nick Shirley, whenever he went and did the fraud, Tim Walz tried to say that he was like a leftist or a rightist or whatever, and was like, he's just trying to, you know, and like, and he's like, no, dude, like, Nick Shirley was straight up like, whenever he testified in the Supreme, in the court, right? He was like, fraud is fraud. It doesn't matter who's doing it. Fraud is still fraud, and he's right. Doesn't matter if you're left or right. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. If you're committing fraud or a crime, go to fucking jail. Go to jail. I don't care. How is it so hard to be a tax-paying citizen that works a 9-to-5 that just wants to go home and relax and not do fucking crime? How hard is it?
I'd say that we're doing everything that we can to lower the temperature, and we would like federal and local, or excuse me, state and local officials.
Yes, Ilhan Omar too. I agree.
Halfway. So much so.
Perceiving it correctly. Are you saying that they're not seeing that it's the tactics or the presence of the officers that are...
Look, I'm sure that people are seeing a lot of things that would make any member of our national community feel very upset, but I also think that if you understand this in context, this is the inevitable consequence of a state and local government that have decided that they're not going to cooperate with immigration enforcement at all. In fact, they're going to aggressively not cooperate.
True.
I mean, here's a basic illustration.
Well, like, you can do that without saying to not cooperate. If you go back and look at some of Tim Walz's speeches, you'll see that he never once has he acknowledged in any of his press conferences that ICE agents are still police officers. They are. They're actually above the police. They are federal agents. They're not the FBI, but they're still federal agents. They are there they can enforce felonies. If you do a felony and they see you doing a felony, they can enforce that. They can arrest you for committing a felony in front of them. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. Like, that's what, like, if Tim Walz and that crazy mayor would just say these guys are federal agents, they're police officers, they're law enforcement, they can still arrest you, then this would change literally overnight. Well, you would hope that it would at this point, but the unfortunate fact is that now that the masses are out there from all over the country, because I doubt that it's just Minnesota doing this. I guarantee you they've pumped Minnesota full of people from all over the country that are probably paid. There's probably a lot of paid people in that crowd. And I feel like a lot of that's going to change on February 1st after Trump cuts the funding.
If you are an ICE officer and you have to arrest a person who's committed assault and is also an illegal alien, but the state and local officials won't help you identify that person, many of the things that people in Minneapolis are seeing that give them pause, that frustrate them, that worry them, that make them feel like things are too chaotic, many of these things are coming from the fact that there's no cooperation with state and local law enforcement. And I guess what I would tell people, again...
I agree with that. They want to be the law. Have you noticed how they wanted... They're complaining about their amendments being violated. They're complaining about unlawful searches. They're down there doing that. They're down there blockading the roads. They're down there unlawfully searching people with actual no fucking ability to do that. They have no right to sit there and search people's vehicles. They're down there like it's literally doing anarchy. They're barging into churches, suppressing freedom of religion. It's anarchy.
Justifiably concerned and worried about what
they don't want to be. They're not mad that they're being. They're not mad that they're mad that they're not able to wield the tools for themselves. They want to be the people to wield them. They want to be the ones that suppress other people. They want to be in control.
Why are
That's
we not
really
seeing
what's
it
going
anywhere
on.
else? We're seeing this level of chaos only in Minneapolis. LA and Chicago, we had some problems there. Pretty much every jurisdiction where these guys are operating, you don't see the same level of chaos. You don't see the same level of violence. You don't see the problems that we're seeing in Minneapolis. Maybe the problem is unique to Minneapolis.
Yeah, but the thing is like, the due process thing and the Fourth Amendment shouldn't even apply to illegals, period. You're not even from this country. Just because you set foot on the soil doesn't mean that the amendment should protect you. That's just stupid. I'm sorry, that's just retarded. The amendment is supposed to protect American citizens, not random people.
And it's a lack of cooperation between state and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. Sir.
CNN. ICE has been operating here for years with less pushback than we're seeing right now. And even the St. Paul police chief recently said, is there not a way to find common ground without scaring the hell out of people in the community? Those were his words. And I just wonder, with this operation...
Scaring the hell out of people.
Yeah, I still game. I just don't stream.
You mean mentally ill, hysterical Karens?
Trust me, I still game.
Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota. And I know you talked about you've been in touch with the governor's offices and the mayor's offices, but why have you not been able to speak?
Oh man, just get out of here, retard.
They don't want to listen.
Nobody
Well,
has
look, I
time
have
for your
spoken to some of the
retardation.
people in
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Trying
I spoke to some of them today. I've spoke to others in the past. And again, our
There's so
staff
many
has
of
been in
these
very
fucking
direct
morons.
contact with pretty much every official with any influence
What's
or any...
crazy is I even put it on sub only so that way people would just fuck off. Like, it spreads so much misinformation and mental retardation. It's just enough of it, dude.
power
Seriously.
in Minneapolis. But no, we're not trying to send a political message. We're trying to enforce the law.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what has happened
Like,
is...
JD Vance absolutely annihilated that press conference yesterday. JD Vance, bro. Seriously. Absolute beast mode, JD Vance.